Hey, and welcome back to Class Winners Collector Vehicles Workshop. I'm Sam Baer, car guy in chief here. You know, it's an early spring day, and it's raining cats, dogs, Republicans, and Democrats. I mean, it's no condition to go out and drive a collector vehicle. So we're going to take the opportunity to do one of the easy DIY jobs, an oil change. Now, this is a 1986 Ferrari 328 GTS. It's an interesting car because there were only 6 328s that were made in this color, blue medio metallico, and only one came to the North American market, and that's this car. It has almost 90,000 miles on it, and it's been with us since, 2007. But the reason we're choosing to do an oil change on this today is because whether we're at car shows or people are contacting us or we're online, one of the things we hear and get asked so frequently is, who can work on these classic cars? Aren't these cars hard to work on? Something like a Ferrari, I mean, don't you have to be a trained mechanic to do anything on it? No, you can do it yourself. A Ferrari is just a car. It runs on the same principles as a Model T. So there's nothing really special about it. It's not made with leprechaun DNA and unicorn essence. It's something that you yourself can work on and do something simple like an oil change. So let's get into it. Hey, before I forget, go ahead and click that button down in the lower corner, because then you'll actually get notified when Class Winners puts up another workshop video showing you how to do it yourself on cool collector cars. And you'll also get notified when we do Class Winners seat of the pants videos, where we actually get them out in the open road and flog them around and drive them. So yeah, click that icon and subscribe. At the heart of this beast is a 3.2 liter V8. It actually kind of operates like 2 4-cylinders with distributors on both banks. It's fuel injected, but really for today's purposes, all we really need to know is that here's the oil filter, and here's the oil fill. Dipstick's back here, so let's get ready to put it up and do a little change in. So as we walk under the car, we see the fluid pans. And one of the things that happens all too frequently is that someone will drain this fluid right here and then refill the motor oil. Problem is that if you look up there, it says olio cambio. That means it's the transmission fluid. That is the motor oil. And it says motor oil on it in Italian. So let's get ourselves a hex and drain that out. So what we've got here is a 12 millimeter hex. And nothing crazy. Just simply loosen it up. And one thing that I always teach DIYers when they first start doing this stuff, be very careful taking the plug out. This is actually a little slippery, so we'll do it like this. Because the key is to not get yourself totally soaked in oil. Now, I keep a little pressure on it. And of course did it terribly, because that's a slippery little bugger. Now, as you can see, the oil actually is very clean. That's because there's almost no miles on it. I think I changed this about 1.5 years ago. Now, this is a great time, especially if you're lucky enough to have a lift like I do. it's a great time to take it and check out your brakes, check out your bushings, and just do a general safety check. Well, now that we've let this thing drip for a mighty long time, I think we can put the plug back in. So if you have a new crush washer, this is a great time to put it on. Make sure it's the right size. And just nothing fancy, just put it on and tighten her up. Do not go too tight, because especially in the case of this car and with like the Corvette behind me, these pans are aluminum. And if you go too tight, you risk actually cracking the pan, and you definitely don't want to do that. So when it comes to changing the oil filter, it's nice to have it on top because it makes for easy access. It's not like a Miata where you're running in and up over your arm and shoulder and it's blind. But one downside is that you're gonna get oil just about everywhere because there's no way around it. I like to stick some towels down here and just prepare for the inevitable. All right. And it's not on there too tightly. Let's see what we can do. There it starts. It's starting to puke. Come on, let's get this out. Oh, all right. How much did we drip and how much did we save? Soak up some of that oil down there so it's not. Oh yeah, there it is. Go all the way down onto the belt housing there. Yep, it happens. So when you're selecting a filter to put back on there and you have one of these top mounted filters, the most important thing, besides obviously getting one that fits, is to get one that has a anti-drain back valve. It's a little rubber flap that keeps some of the oil in there so that you don't have to dry start it with no oil in it. So in this case, the popular one for these Ferraris is actually a truck filter called a Baldwin. It's a B253. Really any filter will do. The Ferrari guys just like to see them on there. And I've already put some clean, fresh oil on there. So it's just as simple as spinning it on there. Now, if you're able to, on one that's underneath, it's always good to pre-fill the oil filter. But in this case, it's really hard to do because anything you put in there is probably just gonna spill right back out. That's it. All right, we're in the home stretch. Time to fill her back up. Now, I happen to know that this Ferrari takes just over 9 liters with the filter change. And you really want to pay attention to what your manufacturer recommends. But on the whole, it's pretty easy stuff. I'm using 1540, and I'll tell you, you want to start a flame war. Start asking people what's the best oil to use in any car. The fact of the matter remains that pretty much any oil you can buy today is better than the oil when it was new if it was made during or before the Reagan era. In this case, A lot of people like to use 1540 diesel oil. A lot of people like to use 2050 Valvoline. The most important thing is keep your oil clean, your filter clean, and simply it'll give you years of good service. All right, and with a second gallon. All right, last little bit in. Wipe off the dipstick. And put it back in. Now, in actuality, I'm just showing you how to do this, but in this case, it doesn't really work for a Ferrari because you actually fill way up past the max line because the testing procedure for oil in this sump is actually to run it, turn it off, let it wait 15 minutes, then check the level. But I've done this enough times and I actually have a scribe mark down there. I don't want to wade too much into the really polarized world of ZDDP additives. In general, ZDDP, that's zinc, for the reasons that they would clog up cats, it's not great for the environment. The levels were taken out of oil several years back, many years back. And if you are running a high compression engine with heavy valve springs, then it causes your flat tappets to eventually grind away your camshaft. Now, this does have tappets, even though it's a dual overhead cam engine. It's flat tappets, but the springs are pretty light. About 50% of the Ferrari owners say there's absolutely no reason to run ZDP additives in your oil. Another half say, well, why don't we? It can't hurt. So every so often I do add some in here. That's just me, extra protection. But I don't run it in every car. So you make your own choice. I think this was about $6, maybe $7. It's cheap insurance if you want it. What we're gonna do now is turn it on and watch for this oil pressure to come up. And it's gonna take a second because the oil has to fill that Baldwin oil filter. So let's turn it on. And there it goes, all right. Right to the middle of the needle, right on. So now let's get out and make sure there are no leaks. So once you've completed your oil change, you can just take your waste oil out to any parts store. And some county dumps, they'll have hazmat areas where you can recycle oil as well. It's free. Don't pour it down the drain. Now, in terms of how often should you change your oil? If you're one of those people who drives your collector cars like it's new, well, just follow the manual's recommendation. But if you're a person who drives their car like a lot of Ferrari owners do, which is they may only put in 100 or 200 miles a year, you don't have to change it every single year like they used to tell you in the past. Old oil from the 50s, 60s, 70s, it became acidic pretty quickly, caused corrosion. Modern oils, it's not like that. They actually can stay in the engine and not get acidic for 3, 4, 5 years and preserve their ability to keep your engine parts lubricated. So just follow good common sense. If it's been 2 or 3 years, change your oil. It's cheap. I mean, as long as you're not paying a Ferrari dealer 500 or 600 bucks to change your oil? I mean, just go to Costco. I think the 3 gallons of oil cost me $38 and the filter was like 10. So it's just good price to value. So this is Sam Bear in the Class Winners Collector Vehicles Workshop, signing off and reminding you, life's too short for ordinary cars. And it's certainly too short to have your engine blow up because you don't have good oil in there. And it's certainly too short to pay someone else too much money to change it for you. Because working on your cars yourself, it's easy and it's fun. So keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe.